Hi, Bill here with 30 Minute Woodshop. Thanks for joining. So I've got a bunch of these Rocky Patels, all right, and off and on I go over to my buddy's house and we smoke them over at his house because, of course, my wife doesn't want these around here, which is okay. But you know, rather than carry them in a plastic bag, I wanted to put them in something a little bit classier. So what I'm going to make today is a cigar travel case, all right? It's going to probably be a little bigger than I think it needs to be because I want to be able to put a couple extra cigars in there, or maybe if I want to do some larger ones. Right now these are like 6.5 inches by about 3/4 of an inch diameter. Sometimes I smoke ones that are, you know, an inch diameter or so. We'll see. So super simple, all right. If you want a sketch, dimension sketch for this, all right, go down here to 30minutewoodshop.com and you can find it. Just go ahead, hit more. You can also find a link to my my blog down there, and you can pick up one of these. Like I said, a dimension sketch, pretty easy to follow. Okay, and hey, go ahead and do that. Explore those links, see if there's something there you'd be interested in, and let's start making. Materials are really straightforward for this project. You don't need a lot. All right, you can use pine, you can use beech, birch. You can use, you know, poplar, take your pick, maple, whatever. I happen to have some pure pieces of walnut, all right, and that's going to be basically the sides of my chest or my box. And I have a piece of Swachina mahogany. I'm going to use that for the top and the bottom. Now, normally for the bottom, you put some throwaway wood like Luan or something that doesn't mean anything. But because this thing's going to be kind of hanging around, people will be probably seeing both sides of it because it is a travel case. I want something a little nicer than that, okay? So this should work out really well. All right, so let's do a little bit of layout. So layout for this project, again, just like the materials, is pretty straightforward. All right, let's back up a little bit. There's a couple ways you can assemble this box, okay? I'm going to assemble this as a completed box, and then I'm going to cut the pieces in half. All right, so the top and the bottom and the sides will all be one solid piece. I'll put it on a table saw and I'll cut it in half. All right, that makes sure that all the pieces are identical. Now, the other way you can do this is by making a bunch of pieces, like say 3/4 by 3/4 inch pieces, and then assembling those as a group for the top and then the bottom. Doing that, you have to be even more accurate than just doing it the way I'm doing it. It's a good way to do it. It'll work perfectly. So if you want to do a 3/4 by 3/4 bunch of sticks and, you know, miter those and put them together, it works out perfectly. Now, that said, I am going to be mitering these, okay? And I'm going to miter these all, cut them all the same and miter them all the same so that way I'm certain everything's consistent. But here's what we do. So first thing I want to do is I want to do some quick layout here, and using my dimension sketch, right? It says I need a couple pieces that are 8.5 inches long. Okay, so I can only get one 8.5 incher out of each of these, but that's okay because the ends are 4.5. So I can come back and do 4.5, and I can get actually the front, the back, and the two sides out of two different pieces. So I gotta say, guys, if you don't have a Starrett combination square, you really need to get one. You can buy a bunch of different cheap ones. There's a whole crap load of these things. Chinese make them. They're okay, I guess, but you can't get better than a Starrett. All right, nobody makes anything better than a Starrett, and I'll tell you, a great piece of equipment. So there's a link at the bottom. Go down there, check that out. Don't be shocked at the price. But it's one of those tools you buy once and you never need to buy that again for your life, your kid's life, and your grandkid's life. And maybe even your great-grandkid's life. So that's what's pretty cool about it. So anyway, I'm going to cut these two pieces. So what that means is that I'm going to take them over to my radial arm saw, do a cross cut on these, and I'm going to make these identical. Okay? Let's go over and start cutting. Okay, we're ready to start cutting. So just make sure anytime you're using power tools, you read and follow all the safety directions. Safety glasses, hearing protection, absolutely needed. I don't care what anyone tells you about, you know, the output of these saws. But once you start cutting, If you do it over and over, you're risking some damage to your ears. You don't want to be 85, 80, can't hear, can't see, or whatever. Take care of it now, guys, and you'll be good when you get older. So come on in here. Getting ready to cut my 45s, my miters, and you can see I'm using a Wexy digital meter. Same thing as the Steric, guys. If you don't have one of these, if you're using a table saw, absolutely get one. This will give you probably the most perfect 45 or miter that you can actually get. Makes it super easy. So I got it there 45. Now I have to do a little more setup, and let's keep going. Okay, I'm all set here. I get to set up for a 1/4 inch and taking 1/8 of an inch out. So what that's going to do is just give me a dado here so I can recess my top and bottom. We'll just put this on to let it soak in a little bit. There we are. What we're going to do now is give it a couple hours to dry, and then we're going to do a little more work. So out of the clamps, everything's looking pretty good in this. What I've done now is I've set this to the just over the thickness of my sides. So I'm going to cut through this. Should be pretty straightforward. I'm going to cut this. Got to make sure I get the right spot though, because I'm biasing this to one side, so of course the top is thinner than the rest of it. And I want this to be the bottom. So kind of keep the darker color up top and that kind of thing. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and cut this. And let's see what happens. Okay, sanding's done here. I've broken all the edges, taking these corners down because they were pretty sharp. I'm liking the way this box is looking so far. So now I have to clean off all the dust, and then we're going to throw some finish on it. Now inside I'm going to finish it with a lacquer, okay? And part of that is because I don't want lacquer's pretty. The volatiles come off very quickly. And so there's no smell or taste or anything, so that'll keep it from soaking into the smoke. Wow, soaking into the cigars, so you won't notice it when you smoke. On the outside, I think I'm going to finish it up with boiled linseed oil. Though I may do a wipe-on varnish. I don't know yet, or I could even do a wax. So anyway, and then I have a set of hinges here. Okay, I'll be setting these hinges. They're just a couple small middle hinge brass. And then my catch is going to be a rare earth magnet. I'm using Rust-Oleum lacquer here, spray lacquer, for a high luster coat. But I'm going to do that on the inside. I still haven't decided on the outside. I may actually use this stuff for the outside too. We'll see. Wow, color came out really nice on these. I'm going to let this dry out for a good 10 minutes. I'm going to come back, put another coat on, and then I'm going to go through a quick sanding of 320 just to break off all the nubs, and then probably put 1 or 2 more coats on that on the inside. And then I'm still trying to decide on the outside. We'll see. Back in a bit. Well, finish is dry. It's looking pretty good. Still a couple rough spots here in the finish that I don't really like. So I'm going to wipe that down with alcohol because this lacquer uses the alcohol as a solvent, so that'll help out a little bit. But at this point, I'm just going to go ahead and put on the hinges. I'm going to put on the magnets to hold it together. All right, so come on in here. Okay, we're ready to put the hinges on this beast. I've got them laid out here. These are just some these small solid brass hinges with these tiny screws. Now what I've done here, I'm setting them in about an inch. Yeah, about an inch. So we should be pretty good. I've put, you can see I put some tape on the back. This is two-face tape. So once I get them in, that'll hold them while I get the holes set. What I've done here is I've used a really fine wire drill, and I've put in pre-drilled for these little tiny screws, because these brass screws will break off real easy. So now I've got these things pre-drilled. All I do is screw these things down. We'll be ready to rock. Wow, this was a super easy and fun project. And while not actually a 30-minute project, I have to say that this travel box for my cigars works out really well. It perfectly fits 4 Rocky Patels, so I love that. I'll be able to take this over to my friend's house, have a couple of cigars with him, and plenty of room. I can share these around too. So I'm really liking that. And it's not too big either. Kind of the size of a book. A little bit larger than a book, but nice, feels good in the hands, looks good, and I think this is going to go really well on those bourbon and cigar nights. So I hope you got something out of this. If you want a dimension sketch, go down here to 30minutewoodshop.com. You can also hit more, find a link to my blog, and you can also check out the tools and some of the tools and things that I use. You might find those interesting or fun. I always like to see what other people are using because it gives me ideas. But hey, if you got something out of this, do me a favor, hit like and subscribe. And folks, until next time, good making.